Yes, we will invite the second speaker, please. Second speaker, please, Professor Muhammad Aliou Paiko. Professor, he is an editor, also work in Science Alert. He is an associate professor of nutritional biochemistry and biotechnology. Also, he's due.
Dr. Mona, your mic is mute. Can you please unmute the mic?
Are you speaking to me?
Dr. Mona, the session moderator, your mic is mute. Can you please unmute the mic?
Okay, we can go with the presentation.
Yes, Professor.
Professor Muhammad Aliou Paiko, please.
Okay, good morning from here in Nigeria, everyone. I am actually very happy to be here. I'm speaking to you from Nigeria. Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Okay, can I share my slide?
Yes, Dr. Paiko, please share your slides.
Okay, just a minute, please. Okay, like I said, good morning from here. I am really very happy to be here. I am a professor of biochemistry and biotechnology, as has been shared. I joined ACSE in, when I was a visiting professor in Universiti Putra Malaysia, but I have since returned to my university here in Nigeria, where I am a professor and I also work for Hindawi, as well as Science Alert. The topic of my presentation this morning, as my location suggests, is that making scholarly journals more reliable sources of information for non-science audiences in a pandemic. Essentially, I am trying to look at how non-scientists can rely very much more on scholarly publications, such that whatever it is scientists publish, it can be more useful to the non-science audience. Quite very quickly, my outline of discussion is going to be talk about an introduction. I'm going to introduce a pandemic as a source of drama, a source of panic, especially what we notice for COVID-19. And I'm also going to dwell around information sharing, whether it is by WHO or the national health institutions of every country. I'm also going to talk about social media platform versus other scholarly publications. And then I'm going to talk about adjusting scholarly publications so that they are more useful and more reliable as sources of information. And I am going to conclude thereafter. So quite very quickly, most of us will notice that during the pandemic, everything was about chaos. Everything was about panic. If you look to the top left, this was what happened during the pandemic when the virus was announced to have become global. In China, there was a panic at the airport. You know, right down here to the left is in Pakistan, where they are trying to bury a victim. If you look to the right is India, where there was a panic at I believe at a bus station, people, you know, trying to get to wherever it is they want to go. And then on the top right there, you see it's in the UK where people were panic buying because of the issue of the announcement of the pandemic. Now, as pandemic becomes what it became, is actually supposed to have become a scientific, the pandemic was a scientific, it has scientific basis, and therefore scientists were supposed to be the ones to take the lead, but eventually we got to notice that the coming of the panic, led to now people became conspiracy theories took over. And of course, if you have been very aware of the 7 levels of conspiracy, you will see that WHO itself did not help during the pandemic because there were so many contradictory statements coming from WHO. There was overriding suspicion by the public. Of course, people thought the pandemic or the coronavirus had some nefarious intent. And then people thought maybe something was actually must be wrong. And therefore, because of the panic situation and because of the lack of consistent information coming from WHO and other health institutions, so conspiracy theorists, they got a space and they went in and they began to, if you like, put forward so many different types of theories which were mostly wrong, but which people, of course, were bound to believe. So, and this gave birth to what I call the war of masks, where we were able to see in America, the outgoing president then, Donald Trump, he even took upon a political statement and was making the pandemic to look very funny. Quite immediately after, when Biden came in, and you can see he also was saying wearing the mask is not a political statement. So something that should have had scientific basis and should have taken the scientific ground, science should have been leading, or scientists or scientific publications should have taken the lead. It became a political statement, or it became a tool for politics. And it also went and became something of laughter, where you can see there, the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, was trying to wear a mask on the screen, and it went viral. And of course, to the left, right is my own president, a very old man who at the very beginning was not consistent in wearing masks. So the whole essence of the pandemic, because of the way it came and the conspiracy theories, it took on so many dimensions, from political to very, very hilarious. And if you like, this continued when it came to the issue of the vaccine. We all know how the issue of the AstraZeneca vaccine, the supply, whether it was not enough. This also led to, some panic around the world, whether there was actually enough vaccine. Some countries were left behind. Those of us in Africa, up until this moment, we are still not sufficiently covered. And while all that was also going on, the vaccine, the virus, again, took another dimension. We have so many different strains in circulation. People are not even really sure if the vaccine they have taken or the vaccine they want to take, whether it is actually going to work. So you can see how the dimension of the pandemic has moved. But while all that was happening, scientists all over the world were in their various laboratories, science was going on, people were carrying out experiments from public health officials to biotechnology, microbiology. Every field of research was seriously engaged in research on the coronavirus, or how to prevent, or how to improve care, or how to get better vaccine distribution. So people, scientists were all over the place carrying out research. And of course, this research now led to a boom in the number of papers, number of scientific papers that were actually being churned out. If you look at from about 31st January to 1st February of 2020, when WHO actually declared Corona, and they declared it as an emergency. If you look on to about 13th to 14th of March, just a span of 14 days, publications increased from 350 to about 3,041, just about 10-fold increase immediately WHO made that declaration. So this is to show you that while the pandemic was going on, you know, the number of publications by scientists jumped. And by the time Italy had quarantine and US had quarantine, by the time we're talking about 14th April, you know, precisely about 2 months, a month and a half later, the number of publications had actually, you know, had gone 20-fold. If you look at it, it had jumped to about 9,435 just within the space of 31st January up to April, you know, so just within the 3 months window. So there was this boom in the number of publications, you know, bearing the coronavirus, just to show you that scientists were really working and they were churning out papers, and papers, you know, containing valuable information were being churned out to the public domain. However, if you look at this statistics that was sent out by WHO, you can see that scientific journals, even for medical personnel, you know, scientific journals accounted for just over 25% of sources of information. You can see places like the media, you know, on TV, radio, 69.5. You can see places like the social media, you know, what people were actually relying upon for conversation regarding coronavirus, you know, scientific papers, even for the medical personnel, was far, far very low, even despite the number of publications, you know. So, and then you take another one in Africa, where we are, where, of course, the effect, you know, is not as much as it was. Even here, you can see that social media also accounted, apart from radio and television, social media, you know, for medical personnel, you know, social media played a very significant role in their sources of information. So what this tells you is that even though scientists are producing large number of journal articles, you know, going through all the studies to publish their papers, these papers were not actually reliable sources of information, even for medical personnel. And then you go to even the developed world, you look at consumers, general people around the population. In the US, the one on the left, you can see that the sources of information were virtually doctors and then TV news. And if you go a little bit further, it is newspapers and, of course, the information coming from government. So no mention of journals here. Then you go to the UK, the one on your right. Again, you see that major news organizations were the major sources. And of course, national government sources, national health authorities were also at the forefront. So what does this tell you? You know, there's a whole lot of information from scientists which are being published in journals, but to a very large extent, they are not accounting as the major, you know, sources of information for people. And then, of course, we now came to realize that there was this preprints. Preprints were adopted by some of the major, you know, journals. You look at Nature. Nature is saying that medical archives and biological archives are the top when they search for preprints. So preprints became a very rapid and a very, very simple method of allowing scientists, whatever it is you get, you know, you just send it out as preprint, and then people were relying on it, taking this preprint information in preprints, and they were the ones that were forming strategy for people to change practice, for people to change diagnosis, for people to even understand, you know, the nature of the virus. So preprint became immediately one of the major sources. And if you look at these statistics up here, you'll see that before the pandemic, actually, the publication of papers were above 100. And then for non-COVID related, it actually increased. Whereas during the pandemic, COVID related, you know, the average number of days to publication actually dropped to less than 60, if you may. So this is to show you that the use of preprint is actually a very good strategy for scientists to try to get their information out there very quickly, so that it could be picked by social media, it could be picked by radio stations to form part of the conversation, you know, for information to people. And then, of course, the information revolution shows that scientists, they are sharing more information using preprints, and they did this, and it was able to also improve the number of publications. So if you use preprints at the end of the day, the number of publications also is going to relatively increase. So what I'm trying to say is that rather than scientists during a pandemic relying very, very strongly on the regular journal publication, they could adopt the use of preprints, which if they are able to, make the conversation available on different social media platforms and other news sources, government health institution sources, this could, go a long way to show up how publications in scientific journals are looked upon. Thank you very much for listening to me. This is my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Mohammed, for staying with time. Thank you.